Today we have updates on 3 shocking cases. Everyone we talk about is innocent until proven guilty. More than 40 rounds were fired at a couple who were found dead inside their home in New Market, Maryland, while 4 young children, all under the age of 13, slept. This tragedy occurred around 1:30 a.m. on August 25th. The children were awakened by the sound of shooting but hid in the house until sometime around 7 a.m. when they felt safe enough to call the authorities. Crimea Baker and Sean Lange were killed in what is being called a crime of rage and anger. Officers found 42 .40 caliber shells in and around the bed and believed that this was a targeted incident. Baker was the mother to all the children and Lange was the father of the 7-month-old. Detectives spoke with Baker's ex-husband in Miami, along with a number of people she knew, but detectives are not calling anyone a suspect yet. As the investigation continues, social services are working with the children to get them the help they need. A fundraiser has been started for the children to help keep them together. After these children lost their mother, it would be another tragedy for them to lose each other. After a month of investigating around the clock, police identified the suspect in this heartbreaking case as David Philip Turner, 33, of Miami, Florida. Turner was Crimea Baker's ex-husband and the father to 3 of the 4 children in the home at the time of the crime. He allegedly drove 800 miles to carry out these horrific acts. Turner was arrested on 9/28/24 in Florida and was recently extradited to Maryland, where he will face 2 counts of first-degree murder, home invasion, and 2 counts of use of a firearm in a crime of violence or felony. On December 19, 2024, Turner was denied bond and will remain in custody at Frederick County Adult Detention until he goes to trial.
It's taken police weeks to arrest someone in a case that really shocked the community, including even the officers who were working it.
Yeah, look, this was a tough one for sure, but I got to tell you, it took a month, but this guy was the suspect right from the start. We actually asked the sheriff about him within days of the murder because we spotted his name in court records. But the sheriff said they had to build a case, and then they caught him in a lie. He said he hadn't been in Maryland, and they were able to prove that, in fact, he had traveled to Maryland from Florida. Then they found some evidence in his vehicle, and he was picked up over the weekend. Crimea Baker was, by all accounts, an attentive and loving mom for her 4 kids, moving to this home in New Market last spring. Sean Lange, the father of the youngest child, joining the family there, also living in the house on Mandalong Court. The murders of Baker and Lange in that house shaking even the county's longtime sheriff.
I've never seen anything to this degree. Really, it was unbelievable.
Now, Jenkins says this man is the killer. He's 33-year-old David Turner, Baker's ex and the father of 3 of her kids. Jenkins says he drove from his home in Miami and back to do the crime.
We believe that Turner entered the residence through a back door sometime after 1 a.m. before 1:25 and murdered her and Mr. Lange in the bedroom, firing more than 42 rounds.
Court records show Jenkins lost a custody and child support battle with Baker for their children following their 2017 divorce. Sheriff Jenkins says he can't say yet that's a reason for the crime.
There's no explanation that I can think of that would have justified anything like this. Certainly we don't have a motive. We can only suggest it was domestic related, obviously. It was a crime of passion. And Turner must have been so enraged for some reason. Again, maybe we'll find out in the future, maybe not.
Yeah, Sarah said we may never know the motive. Now, the sheriff was asked about the children. He said obviously they endured something terrible being in that home when their mother and her boyfriend were killed. But he says now they are safe, they are protected, they've got a long way to go emotionally. We've also seen that there's an online fundraising effort right now for Crimea Baker's parents. They are trying to win custody of those children so that they can ensure them a future.
Sadly, the two women that were found dead in rural Oklahoma were positively identified as Veronica Butler and Jillian Kelly. The two moms went missing from Kansas on March 30th. Butler was going to pick up her children for a visit, and Kelly was there to supervise. When Butler didn't arrive at a birthday party, her family went looking for her, found her car abandoned, there was blood on the road, and Butler's glasses were found next to a broken hammer. 4 suspects have been arrested and charged with murder, kidnapping, and conspiracy. This includes the children's grandmother, Tiffany Adams, who was in a bitter custody battle with Butler. Adams had purchased 5 stun guns and 3 prepaid cell phones that pinged near the last known location of Butler and Kelly when they disappeared. One of the suspects told their teen child that things didn't go as planned, but they didn't have to worry about Butler. One suspect might be part of an anti-government group, so extra precautions are being taken. Suspects are being held behind bars without bond and could face the death penalty or life without parole. Butler's children are safe.
The affidavit. Grice was interviewed and admitted that he was a part of the planning and killing of both Butler and Kelly. Grice admitted that he participated in the killing of Butler and Kelly and their subsequent burial.
We learned this about his anti-government views. Almost exactly 1 year ago, he filed this crazy 44-page document that reads like a Kaczynski manifesto against the USA, renouncing his U.S. citizenship.
Some of the details about this case are disturbing and graphic. The nation was captivated with worry over this case of 2 missing women at the end of March 2024. On April 14th, their bodies would unfortunately be found in a freezer buried in a cow pasture just 10 miles from where they vanished. According to the state chief medical examiner's report, both women were killed in a stabbing attack after being hit with a stun gun. Veronica Butler, 27, died from sharp force trauma and had 30 wounds, 10 of which were consistent with her trying to defend herself. Jillian Kelly, 39, died from 9 stab wounds and 7 cuts. 5 people have been charged with murder, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, and kidnapping. Tiffany Adams, Adams' boyfriend, Tad Cullum, Cole Twombly, Cora Twombly, and Paul Grice. To everyone's dismay, Tiffany Adams was the children's paternal grandmother. According to the family members in the courtroom, Adams showed up, admitted guilt, and has waived her rights to a preliminary hearing and speedy trial. She is due back in court April 16, 2025. Paul Grice testified that he fatally stabbed the women after falling for the claim that the children were being abused by Butler, adding that he had been brainwashed by evil. He said he is haunted by what he did every day and every night. Cora Twombly took a plea agreement and will testify against the others for a recommended life sentence with 30 years suspended.
Did this grandmother admit to killing 2 women in the Oklahoma Panhandle? We're getting a look at what she told investigators.
Prosecutors say Tiffany Adams, the prime suspect in the murders of Veronica Butler and Jillian Kelly, gave a recorded statement after she was arrested.
This is a motion to hold Adams without bail, and it says she told investigators she was responsible for the deaths of Veronica and Jillian. Locals from Guyman and surrounding towns showed up to the Texas County Courthouse when Tiffany Adams and 3 other suspects were brought in for their first hearing. That same day, these court documents were filed. Prosecutors stated proof of Adams' guilt is evident, saying, quote, "The state would point out that after arrest, this defendant, Tiffany Adams, did provide a recorded statement to law enforcement indicating her responsibility for the death of the deceased." Prosecutors also allege Adams and her co-conspirators weren't afraid to target a judge. The documents say, quote, "There are statements of the co-conspirators that their problem would be taken care of because in addition to removing Veronica, they knew the path the judge walked to work." The documents also say there were multiple other attempts to murder Butler in Oklahoma and Kansas. Now, the documents also say Adams and her boyfriend, Tad Cullum, had a violent history, including, quote, "death threats and intimidation against individuals who disagree with their ideas."
One of the suspected killers left the courtroom earlier than expected. Tad Cullum and Cole Twombly had prelim hearings for their alleged roles, in the deaths of these 2 Kansas women. Their bodies were found in the Oklahoma Panhandle. Tiffany Adams, who is the grandmother of Veronica Butler's children, one of the victims, and the alleged mastermind of the murders, was scheduled to also have her preliminary hearing today, but waived her right to a speedy trial and left court.
how they all came to be. A lot of them grew up together. They grew up in the same area between Keys and Boise City, Oklahoma. Cora said in her testimony is that her and Cole were watching videos, learning about their constitutional rights. Paul Grice came by to buy a puppy, started those conversations, and that was the beginning of how the group formed. Later, we learned that Tad and Tiffany joined that group. Cora and Tiffany began to bond over the fact that they both had children with addiction issues who struggled with addiction. So as that group began to form in 2021, they began to have those conversations about constitutional rights, and Tiffany then confided in Cora about issues she was having, custody issues with her grandchildren. And so that was all between 2021, and then in about 2023, that began the conversations about needing to get rid of Veronica. Tiffany no longer had the money, according to Cora in her testimony, to afford to try to get custody of her grandchildren. So that began kind of the conversation about how to get rid of Veronica. There was a first murder attempt in February, according to Cora's testimony, and that attempt was actually supposed to happen on Veronica's birthday on February 28th. That plan, though, didn't happen. And then in the month of March, they began putting together a new plan of how to get rid of Veronica, again, according to Cora's testimony. So in March, between those 30 days, between March 1st and March 30th is really the timeline that Cora is giving us of when that plan came to be. She's walking us through what their plan was and then ultimately what she says happened. And she said things didn't go as planned. She was supposed to be the lookout that day. She said where she pulled off on the side of the road, she could see two people running from a trailer between Veronica Butler's car and a trailer. And she didn't specify who that was, but she did say later that she could see Paul Grice and Veronica struggling on the ground, Paul Grice's arms moving up and down. She said she didn't see a knife, but she assumed that was Paul Grice Veronica. She also said the group didn't know until the day before that it was going to be Jillian Kelly who was going to be with Veronica. They said that they knew a court-appointed supervisor would be with her, but they didn't specify who. It also was somebody who was on an approved list that Veronica had selected. And when there were questions about if they were okay with it being Veronica, Cora said that they weren't necessarily okay with it, but that she was helping Veronica, and so by association, she had to be killed. And so Cora's walking us through all of these details, giving us this information. Cora is telling us that Cole wasn't supposed to be involved necessarily. A week before, they needed a fifth person to help be a lookout, and she's saying that's when Cole got brought into the situation. Paul Grice said he was brainwashed to believe evil. He said Tiffany Adams and Tad Cullum talked about allegations of her grandchildren being abused by a family member of Veronica Butler. However, he said he never had any proof. There is back and forth about what kind of proof there may be, including the DA saying any files surrounding those allegations would be sealed because the people involved are children. Paul also testified that he told his wife about what happened after the murders. He said her not facing charges is not part of his plea agreement. Paul also admitted to perjuring himself, lying under oath in 2 interviews with OSBI, but said his testimony is the truth. Tad Cullum's attorneys cited a previous interview that Paul did with OSBI where he said that Veronica, quote, smelled evil and that he had no remorse. We also learned a bit more about why Paul Grice was not arrested with the others. Paul said in April he willingly met with law enforcement at the Four Corners, and after being confronted with forensic DNA and told his name was being thrown around, he confessed. However, there was not a warrant for his arrest. He was allowed to go home and gave investigators his word that if a warrant was issued, he would come back and turn himself in, which he did. Paul Grice said he took the plea deal to get off the death penalty and to bring closure to the families. He said when he started attacking Veronica, a door closed in his brain and he knew it was wrong, but that he was too far in to stop. Citing the medical examiner's report in the preliminary hearings, attorneys said that Veronica was stabbed about 30 times. Jillian Kelly stabbed with the same knife about 16 times.
Stiles has been in jail since the September 19th shooting and announced his retirement effective Monday. A video captured inside of the chambers that day was shown in the courtroom for the first time.
No evidence from the trial shows former Letcher County Sheriff Sean Mickey Steins point his gun directly at District Judge Kevin Mullins. Mullins is seen on the ground with his hands up and turned away from Steins before the shots were fired. Steins has been charged with murder in the September 19th shooting of Mullins.
A shocked courtroom after seeing surveillance video played of a deadly shooting in a judge's chambers. Prosecutor Jackie Steele simply asked the detective who the people were in the video.
That was Sheriff Mickey Steins and Judge Kevin Mullins.
And also, who had the fire?
Sheriff Steins.
Steins' attorney questioned about the witnesses who saw or knew about the shooting. The detective said those interviews were done by others and are still being processed. They're also reviewing the content of phones owned by Steins and Mullins. The detective confirmed that Steins' daughter's number was also on the judge's phone.
I've heard things.
What have you heard?
Just that this regarding the lawsuit that the Letcher County Sheriff's Office is currently involved with.
The lawsuit that involved ultimately a criminal conviction of a deputy for sexual behavior in the judge's chambers, is that the one you're referring to?
Yes.
Are you aware of any criminal reports that Sheriff Steins had made of Judge Mullins prior to this day?
No.
We wondered, was there a connection between the ongoing lawsuit we filed and the timing of all this?
Yeah.
I just don't know.
Former Letcher County Sheriff Sean Mickey Steins has pleaded not guilty to one count of murder of a public official. Sources say that Steins and his wife had some sort of dispute, and Steins was kicked out of the house by his wife the night before Mullins was fatally shot in his chambers. The day of the shooting, Steins and Mullins attended lunch together with other people. When the sheriff attempted to bring up a sensitive subject, the judge reportedly stopped him and said, "Let's talk about it in my chambers. Come by after lunch." Lunch guests said everything seemed normal and there were no signs of anything being wrong. Steins had tried to call his daughter minutes prior to the shooting, and she did not answer. Steins then called his daughter from the judge's phone, and she answered. Some believe the phone calls demonstrate that Steins had domestic issues at home. Steins' lawyers are far from mapping out their full defense strategy. They believe that they have a compelling story that outlines Steins being in an extremely emotional disturbance at the time of the shooting and are arguing that murder was not the appropriate charge. Steins had testified in a civil lawsuit against himself just a few days earlier. The complainant cited that one of the sheriff's deputies took advantage of her sexually to avoid jail time, blaming Steins of not properly training his staff and being aware of their actions. Steins could face the death penalty if he's convicted. He is held without bond, citing safety and community concerns as well as the gravity of the charge, which is classified as a capital offense.
As recordings could tie the slain judge to a for favor scandal. Sabrina Atkins is alleged to be a victim in that case, and she's the woman who's heard speaking to investigators while claiming that Judge Kevin Mullins was one part of a scheme to exchange sex for special treatment.
He does have some videotapes of some stuff in the judge's chambers.
What kind of stuff?
Just with girls and stuff.
What describe? Have you seen the videos?
I've seen one partly, just him having sex with girls for the bill to get out of jail.
Who was having sex?
Ben and just some higher ups up there.
Who?
The judge and.
You saw the video?
Yeah.
What did you see on the video? I mean,
I've seen Judge Mullins have sex with a girl.
Who was the girl?
I don't know. Because I don't know a lot of people from over there.
Where was it at?
In his office, in the judge's chambers.
Is that the same place that you were meeting Ben? Is that how you know it was the judge's chambers? And this was Judge who?
Mullins.
Now, the motive and the circumstances behind Mullins' death remain unclear this morning, but we're asking, how could the sex for favors accusation affect the sheriff's trial?
This sheriff used to be the judge's bailiff, so they had a long-term relationship, and it seemed like it was a personal relationship. So for him to shoot his friend, clearly something very intimate and very personal to him occurred. He found out some information, and clearly he retaliated based on that information, and he's probably not sharing because it is very close and dear to his heart.
That's exactly, I think, where everybody's minds are going with these new allegations from this woman. You have to wonder, who is the girl? We don't know. Could it be the minor daughter whose name has come up? Again, we don't know, but of course that is a valid question in this whole legal case. With this new component, when you hear that audio recording from that woman, she very clearly states a girl, says she sees the sheriff having sex with a girl, doesn't say a woman. She talks about female defendants and cases, and then says, I don't know who this girl was. Tell me, do you think in any way this could help the sheriff's case?
You know, it's possible. It depends on how the prosecutor looks at this, because really we think about this case and you think about, oh, this idea of manslaughter, this heat of passion, but it was also very a calculated kind of execution, right? It might have been motivated by passion. And here we have a police officer who is enforcing justice on his own, right? His sense of justice, which is kind of very antithetical to what our justice system stands for. So the prosecutor could look at it that way, or he could be empathetic to the sheriff. But really, when you're representing someone like the sheriff, you're going to want to collect all that information and really draw that correlation, so you hope the jury maybe will see things a different way here. But really, this sheriff's actions, even if it was his daughter, if I'm the prosecutor, I'm looking at this, he robbed his daughter of the chance to have the cathartic effect of testifying in court, as well as having him in her life. So, you know, this is, to me, as I'm the prosecutor, I'm looking at this as a horrible crime, as an execution, and I'm punishing the sheriff to the fullest extent of the law.
I can't. Yeah, man, I can't get him. These cuffs are way too tight. Come on now, guys. Come on now.
Steins definitely sounds a little paranoid.
You may pick your leg up, my brother. Y'all got carbon monoxide in here. Oh. Come on now. Come on. I can't sit like this. Slide sideways. I can't. Come on now. Be fair to me. We're being good to you, brother. You stick your leg up in there. Come on now, guys. Please don't do this to me. Please don't do this to me. Please. You want to scoot on over a little bit to the left? Come on now. Try to scoot on over a little bit more. That way we don't hit you. Can you go any bit farther? I just want to hit you with the door. Put your knee in there, my friend. Hey, Jason. Hey, Bates. Hey, Bates. Can we loosen this up a little, or give the window down? I'm sorry? Can we loosen this up a little? Be fair to me, man. I got some air. I'll crack the window for you, but I can turn the air on back here. Okay? Yeah. Be fair to me now. I promise, man. Yeah, I promise. God, please. I promise. I'll tell you. It's hot back here, man. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Come on now, guys. Make sure I get to the jail. Come on now, guys.
I was asking why you done it. Was it over your family?
Come on now, guys. What are you doing?
I'm just talking to you. I'm just asking, was it something to do with your family or anything like that? Because if something did happen, you know, good and let us know. Why did you want to talk to your daughter a while ago, Nick? Something did happen that, you know, involved something that could help you when you go to trial and get a fair trial. Letting us know kind of what's going on, what led to this. We're almost to the jail. I'll ask one last time. Is there anything you want? Is this anything to do with your family? Is that some information that we need to know? And what kind of information comes out, that always can change how investigations are working. You know what I mean? How they're looked at. You know that. Like I said, something led to this.
Come on now, guys. Guys, no guys.
Jail. See it right there.
This is not the jail.
I promise you it is.
This is not the jail now. This is not the jail.
Okay, Mickey. Anyway, so do you want to talk about it? Is this to do with anything with your family, your daughter, or anything?
Bring one in.
Do they have to back out to get out, or does that circle out?
Does it circle out, or do they get it?
Okay. So,
who are you passing me off to?
Leslie. We've talked about it. This is Leslie County Jail.
Who are you passing me off to, though?
No, ain't no.
Nobody. He knows the way here. We didn't know the way.
Oh, yeah. Y'all are passing me off here now to somebody.
Mickey, I don't know why you think this.
Y'all are going to let somebody hurt me. Yeah. Come on now, guys. Be fair.
I told you would be.
Yeah. Don't pass me off to nobody.
The only people we're passing you off to is the jailers inside here.
Just to do
Okay.
it.
That's the jailers.
They said there's somebody in there that they got to clear out.
Yeah, come on now, guys.
What do you think about today's case? Let us know in the comments below.